So you know when someone says something that could be perceived as nice, but you're like, nah, I ain't having it. This is exactly what I experienced a number of times during the Oprah interview in which Dr. Josh Coleman played a role. I said that he gives me the ick, and it seems that I wasn't alone in that thought. Anyway, apart from making a few balanced points, I didn't unleash fully on him. I wanted to do my research first. And so I took to the internet to find out if Dr. Joshua Coleman is a balanced expert or a flying monkey. And let me tell you, I thought I was just hitting dead end after dead end until I stumbled across that man's Substack. Anyway, I'll let you make your own opinion. So, since I dropped the Oprah reaction video, I've been keeping up with the comments across social media platforms to see what people's views and thoughts were. And it seems that Dr. Joshua Coleman didn't just give me the ick, he gave a lot of other people the ick too. Now, there's something that I just want to get you to understand before I dive in and talk about the research that I've done and where I found myself looking into Dr. Joshua Coleman that little bit more. There is an energy and a way in which people can say words. And anybody that denies that is denying that things like coercive control and emotional manipulation exist. Because I get this a lot from a lot of people. You're projecting what you think onto what I'm saying. That projection does happen, of course it does. But emotional manipulators, they use subtle changes of energy, subtle ways in which they frame and deliver their language that has those meanings. And they do it in a hidden way so that if you point it out, you look like the crazy one. The two moments in the Oprah podcast where he really did give me the ick and it really made me think, nah, there's something more going on here. Number one was where he kind of tried to look like he was politely, kindly, and lovingly telling, I think it was the couple, that if they did tell their children they had gone no contact with their parents, that if they let their children know that going no contact is okay, well then they could do it with you. The second one was when he said to a young lady on there who asked, how do I forgive my parent who I've had to go and stay no contact with? He decided to make it about her. And he said, I don't think you can forgive because you don't think you're worthy of forgiveness. He's framed this as if he's like giving her some loving insight about who she is. I'm not buying it. I think it places the onus on her. And it's also like a little bit of a power manipulation in there. I can see something in you that you can't see, so you need to go away and do a bit more investigation on yourself. That, for me, is subtle manipulation. Remember, we're talking about Dr. Joshua Coleman. This is a man that is in a position of power. He is working with lots of people that are experiencing estrangement for one reason or another. He's on Oprah. If you get to be platformed on Oprah, you are in a position of power. When you put yourself in that position of power, you put yourself in a position to be challenged and for people to question and react to what you say. The truth and the reality remains, though, I could be projecting a bunch of things onto him. So I did some research. Started by just Googling his name to see what I could find. First thing I found is that he graduated as a psychologist in 1989. So he's got qualifications in this space, that's for sure. Scrolled down, I couldn't really see much. So then clicked on Dr. Joshua Coleman's daughter. Couldn't really see much there either. There's a couple of Reddit discussions where people are not speaking very highly of him. Similar things to what I've already said. I then searched Dr. Joshua Coleman reviews. Again, still nothing. I even searched Dr. Joshua Coleman good guy with a question mark, and again, nothing really. A Reddit profile that said that he can't be trusted because he's got financial interests. But people often level up at me a lot, you know, that all I care is about money and that's the only reason I'm in it. And I know how ridiculous those statements can be. So I felt a little bit like through Googling, I was hitting a dead end, and a dead end means in this instance there's nothing to support that Dr. Joshua Coleman is anything but a decent human being trying to do his best, not to be defeated. I took to our friend ChatGPT to see if they could help us. Interestingly, I've gone with they and not it. Anyway, I said, I get the sense that Dr. Joshua Coleman is a bit of a flying monkey. I can't seem to find much evidence to support that accusation, but there seems to be a lot of people writing about not trusting him. Can you find me some evidence for and against my hypothesis? ChatGPT did a good job of a balanced proposal, supporting in one sense that he could be a flying monkey, but also supporting that he isn't a flying monkey and he's just a balanced dude talking about estrangement. Though, in his defense, supporting that he is a flying monkey, it broke down one single article into a bunch of quotes that kind of supported the idea that he uses sophisticated language to sort of get in with both sides, but is more in support of the abusers. Then it dives into Reddit and it talks about how victims of parental abuse definitely find this man unsafe and triggering. But again, there could be a bunch of reasons why that is. I did like particularly one line from Reddit that said that he is one of those postmodernism, individualism is ruining the family type voices, but that he's sort of polished enough in the way that he does it to be appealing to the liberals. He's basically like this version of going, oh, the woke kids are just doing all this stupid stuff nowadays, yeah? But because he delivers it in the way that he does, he's capturing some of the people from the liberal side as well, as if he's kind of playing for all sides here. In support of him as a balanced person, it talks about how there are estrangement groups out there where survivors support his work. There are people that do say that he's a good guy. He speaks for both. He definitely can be found in his own articles and in videos that I've seen as well previously, supporting the notion of no contact and saying that it is needed. And ChatGPT highlighted all of that as well. So by this point, I'm starting to think that I need to go and check some of these videos and see how much of it is projection on me, because ultimately, apart from some accusations that could easily be defended as hollow, I haven't really found anything on him. There's no smoking gun. There's no, like, his daughter's got a completely different side. No scandals. No, he did this awful thing and he's covering up for it. Nothing. There's nothing there that I can find of that nature. And so I was about to give up and head over to look at these videos and try and work on my own projection until I just realized that he has his own Substack. And then I found myself there. And his Substack is fucking jam-packed full of content. Jam-packed full, which is great, right? That's what his Substack is for. I sort of peeled through a lot of the stuff. A lot of it is just sort of like trying to funnel into his webinars and stuff like that. There's articles in there that don't really feel like he's taken much time over them. I might be being a little bit harsh here. A few articles that sort of say much of something but not much of anything, if that even makes sense. But one thing's clear, he's very much in support of parents that are estranged from their children. He does say that. I've seen a couple of times where he mentions, you know, it tends to be the parents that come to me. But I think if you frame yourself in the way that he does, obviously it's going to be the parents that come to you. There's two articles that I think really highlight what he's trying to say, but a little bit closer. The first one is, and I've got it here, are some estranged children too nice for their own good? I mean, the title already is like one of those. If you go, well, why are you digging out the estranged children again? It'd be like, I'm not. I'm saying that they're too nice for their own good. I'm just being nice to them. It starts with this line. Some of the most painful estrangements don't start with open conflict. They start with quiet compliance. Kids who were easy, sensitive and eager to please. And then something shifts and the once sweet child becomes critical, distant, even harsh. Parents are left wondering what happened. How did this loving kid become so cold? They're so blaming of the child then, right? So blaming and saying that now that it's no longer compliant, that it's a problem. This is exactly what happens, by the way, with an abusive parent. If you have an abusive parent, the child will be compliant normally until they're a teenager, and then they start to realize their own power, their own strength, and then that's where they kick back. And that is often where the smear campaign will begin for a child when there is a toxic parent. They will start to talk about how awful the child is and how problematic and hard they are because they are losing control over them. They are losing compliance. It's almost unbelievable that he's saying it in here. There's a lot of this notion throughout the Substack of, you know, we both have to come together. You have to understand that you need to work with the adult child, but it's very like work with the poor, broken adult child who's being horrible. You have to humor them. There's a real sense of that in his language. That energy that comes can be done in text. I don't care what anybody says. Somebody commented recently on my Facebook and basically said, surely if it's written in text, it can't mean anything. But an interaction in text absolutely can. You can use words and the way that you frame things in the way that I'm showing you here. This brings me on to the worst article on there, or the most damning article on there, and that is, do grandparents matter? He says, our disdain for aging reveals itself in little regard accorded to the role of grandparents when family conflict occurs. Grandparents are viewed as one more relationship to be disposed of when they don't satisfy the criteria required to sustain today's parent-adult-child relationships. This is true even when the adult child acknowledges that the grandchildren loved the grandparent. Like, I don't even understand what he's talking about there. He's either not understanding abuse or it's willful ignorance. If your abuser is your parent, right, you're not going to let your abuser see your children, or you're certainly well within your rights to not let them see your children. And again, I'll argue this with anybody. Nowhere throughout this article does he acknowledge that. Nowhere. He then says, it's curious to me that a generation that has redefined what should be considered abusive or traumatizing child rearing is so casual when it comes to casting a grandparent out of their own child's life. For a generation obsessed with closely hewing to theories on attachment between themselves and their children, it's remarkable how many seem to disregard their children's profound attachment for their grandparents. He's really going for the adult children here, and it's this constant language of the woke kids, but he's doing it in this liberal way. Remember what we talked about earlier, so that he appeals to the liberal people. It's very underhand what he's doing here, but this is damning. He is being damning of adult children here. He's giving them no leeway whatsoever. He then says, while this is often framed as modeling healthy boundaries and limits, one has to wonder, how healthy could it be? Is it good modeling to prize your feelings so much that you'll sacrifice your children's relationship on the altar of that aspiration? It is a strength not to be able to separate your child's needs from your own. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. There's no mention of abuse here again. And this is damning. And honestly, I need do no more. I'm going to show you a couple of videos, but I need do no more. I will link this Substack in the comments, and I implore you to go and look at it. This is where he acts as if he's supporting grandparents, right? He starts off with people being ageist and all that kind of stuff, and this is a post about supporting grandparents, right? And there is no mention whatsoever of what it's like to have an abusive parent and the challenge that these people face, when one of the ways that abusive parent will continue to emotionally abuse you is by being so loving to your grandchildren, so that you look like the bad person when you don't let them have that. Nobody should ever be forced to make their child have a relationship with their abuser. That is an altar that I will die on. So we're going to look at 2 videos now to conclude my opinion on him, and I am going to formulate my opinion by the end of this because I want to fucking stand for something. Video number 1, let's have a watch.
I think what parents have to understand is that the adult child is being raised in a very therapeutic language culture, where therapeutic narratives are really the way that they're defining themselves and thinking about themselves, and that they want a relationship with a parent that occurs in the context of growth and self-esteem and protecting their mental health. Like, one of the things I see in practically every letter from an estranged adult child is, I have to do this to protect my mental health or the mental health of my children, or I don't want to pass on the traumas that you gave to me to my children, or you have to work on your trauma. So it's a very trauma-informed kind of a way of thinking about things.
I'm stopping it there. Makes me angry to watch it. And I know exactly what he's doing. And these are damning, right? Like, he can get away with it online. He can get away with doing it subtly. You might have watched what I said about the Substack and think it's all projection, but he ain't getting away with this. The little eye roll that he does when he's talking about the trauma, the little eye roll that he does. And it's all I get a lot of people coming into my practice and, they're talking about this. I know exactly what he's doing. I know. And you can see, he's got shit internet signal, by the way. Let's just throw that out there. But you can see what he's doing. Mimicking people very similar to what we saw with Anthony Hopkins in a recent video that I did. And abusive people use that way of speaking so fucking often. Tone is everything. But for me, that first video is damning. This second one, I would argue, is just as bad. But if I remember rightly, he's more subtle with it. So let's watch this one.
Why are so many adult children cutting ties with their parents?
A parent can credibly feel like they did a really good job raising their child, and their child could feel like, no, you actually missed some really important things, or you were really hurtful to me in ways you're completely clueless about. The old days of honor thy mother and thy father, respect thy elders, family is forever, has given way to this much more kind of, not only can I cut them off, but I should cut them off.
Your child grows up to reject you and they want no relationship with you, does that mean that you're unlovable?
It feels that way as the parent. We need to feel like we matter. 70% of the adult children who are estranged, the parents were divorced from the other parent. If you're traumatizing your parent by cutting off contact with you and grandchildren, you're actually not ending it here. You're perpetuating it. Know that we are all inherently flawed, that people do the best that they can do, even when they make terrible mistakes.
Fuck it. Again, there's so much in there. First of all, the interviewer says when adult children get to a stage and they reject you. So that is like framing it as in, this is children just walking away. I notice what he does in this podcast very well is he keeps his subtle, remember what I said about him appealing, making sure that he's nice enough and appealing enough to the liberal people. By the way, I consider myself liberal, right? But he's making sure that he's, soft enough to appeal to them. The big line for me that really, really irks me is he says, if you are traumatizing your parents by cutting contact from them with you and their grandchildren, then you're not healing, you're perpetuating the problem. Again, done in such a soft language, like I'm here for you. I want to help you understand, right? I actually prefer the people out here that are like shouting, oh, you're fucking horrible, cutting contact with your parents, this is on you. Like, at least they're fucking standing for something. This is subtle manipulation. And then he finishes, doesn't he, with the classic fucking, everybody does their best, we're all flawed people. You've made mistakes too, haven't you? I've made mistakes too, mate. Yeah, I have. I've made a fucking lot, actually. More than a lot of parents. But I ain't fucking abusive, and I take a bit of accountability and I self-reflect. Jeez! And let's breathe. So what's my summary? Look, I think that sometimes our bodies give us the answer before our brain catches up. But in this instance, it was worth checking it out to find out if my body was correct or whether I was triggered and projecting. I know where I sit on this debate. As far as I'm concerned, he is a flying monkey all day long. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. And I don't mind if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Come chat to me if you think I'm wrong. Let's discuss it if you think I'm wrong. But ultimately, I think the Substack and the videos are damning. Nobody's perfect, but not everybody is a flying monkey. And in many ways, they are out there doing the work for abusive people. And I'll finish by saying this. The reason it's so important is because it can be so re-traumatizing to pull families back together when there has been abuse. And I will keep standing for the victims, and I will keep pushing for victim first approaches while we keep seeming to push for perpetrator first. Anyway, the next video is going to be about an article that recently came out where some big famous name is suggesting that life's too short to argue with your family. And I'm looking forward to getting stuck into that one. See you on the next one.